think even before Prince Caspian came out, I started dreaming and thinking he had a little bit. And I know every book always has, a few scenes. Oh, they gotta get that scene right. At least a few. And the Undragoning definitely jumped out very early on as wow. Got to get that scene right in Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And I was always a little concerned about it because I could see, I'm not sure how cinematic that is. It works great in the book, the imagery of it. It has its very dreamlike quality to it. But actually visualizing Eustace's skin getting pulled away and stuff, they may have to reimagine that a little bit, But if they do that, there's a few key things they have to stay true to. This is a common thing with adaptation. Yeah, change it, make it more cinematic, but stay true to what makes it what it is. And there's a few things here that I think it was always very important they stay true to with the Undragoning. The first one was that Eustace, he realizes he's a nuisance in the book. Eustace has been convinced that everyone else they're the bad guys. I'm the only sane person on this ship, and being a dragon is going to make him realize that's not the truth. It's because being a dragon, Eustace turns into a dragon in the book, and now he looks like on the outside what he really is on the inside, this greedy, arrogant fool, And he's forced to confront it. He can't ignore it anymore. He almost literally has to look in the mirror and go, "Wow, I'm not such a wonderful person." The book actually says he began to wonder if he was really such a wonderful person as he always supposed. Love that line. And when Eustace becomes a dragon, and there comes that day where the crew is like, "Well, what are we gonna do with this dragon? We can't take him along. He's not gonna be able to keep up with us by flying." In the movie, he could keep up by flying. I think even Lewis realized, that's stretching it pretty far. But Lewis really built on that conflict of Eustace is like, are they going to leave me behind? And Eustace is forced to confront the fact that from day one he's been a total nuisance. And so that's really important. And he's never really a nuisance to the crew at all in the movie. He's nothing but a help to them. He's also a help to them in the book as well. But at the end of the day, what are we going to do with our dragon? We can't feed him. He can't keep up with us by flying, And so that whole element was not in the movie. So you didn't really get Eustace being humbled in that way, coming to that realization. He was never a nuisance. Being a dragon just made him a total help, and that's it. So he was never really humbled. Then another really important point, Eustace has to admit that he's helpless, that he can do nothing. Eustace has been this prideful, stuck-up know-it-all for the whole book. Now he has to lie down and say, "I can't do it. You've got to do it." And the whole claws in the sand thing, potentially cool idea if they'd done more with it, but they didn't. They kind of started it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. They didn't really do anything else with it. But if you've read the book and you're really looking for it, you'll notice that Eustace is kind of, it looks like he's scratching himself. He kind of goes like this. I guess the idea is he's trying to pull on his skin. Here's a great example of, another great example of something that is really important in the book, being just an Easter egg you'll catch if you're a big fan and you're really looking for it. This is so important. Eustace saying, trying to do it and can't do it. And now, if you haven't read the book, it's just like he's scratching himself. It's nothing. They don't make a big deal about it at all. So I didn't get the sense that Eustace was really making himself vulnerable and saying, "Aslan, I cannot do it," and the power of that was lost. The third thing is that it was painful for Eustace. Lewis really emphasized this. It was a very weird, difficult process to go through being undragoned. This is really the old Eustace sort of dying, and now a new Eustace is being born. And he's sort of been transformed internally. Now Aslan's really going to complete the transformation. He's going to make it external now. And it's very painful doing that. It's not an easy process. I thought that was important in the book. It didn't really come through in the film. It's just he's got the Tinkerbell fairy dust exploding around him, and that was it. So all the key points of the Undragoning are not there. Now, even if these key points had been, like, as far as the scene itself, even if they got the idea that Eustace was a nuisance, even if they did convey the idea that, oh yeah, he's admitting he's helpless, even if it was painful for Eustace, I think that the emotion still would have been lost because of the placement of this scene. They placed it in the middle of the sea serpent battle. This is little more than a commercial break from the battle. Battle, craziness, sea serpent, the white witch, that's got those weird claw things. Now we'll have the Undragoning. Back to the battle, crazy. It's just, this is one of the most important scenes in the entire series. It's so central to Eustace's character. It's so powerful. That whole Eustace's redemption. And in the movie, it's just sort of a footnote in the sea serpent battle, They have to do it so that Eustace can unite the swords, And that's it. As a fan, how disappointing to see it treated that way. The scene, it felt like they just wanted to get the scene out of the way so they get back to the battle, So even if all these elements had worked in themselves, the fact that they placed it right in the middle of the sea serpent battle probably would have lessen to the emotion anyway. In the book, there is nothing else going on in the story. The story's kind of at a standstill. They cannot move on. They're at this. The moment is here. The crew are they going to have to leave without Eustace? It's the critical moment, and that's when the undragoning occurs. It's the focus of the story. There's nothing else going on in the story at that point. And in the movie, it's like it's really the battle we're talking about here, and the undragoning is just kind of a commercial break from that. So how disappointing to see such an important scene in the book, such a crucial scene in the book, one of the most important scenes in the whole series. She did like, okay, got that plot point out of the way. He's a boy again, So disappointing. Then just as that's just as an adaptation, as a scene, what a cheesy scene. I'm not joking here. When he started, when the Tinkerbell dust and the fairy dust started appearing around him, and he started, I think maybe he's starting to lift off the ground just a little bit. I think even before that, I was looking at it and I literally said out loud, "Please no, please no, please no." And what I was thinking was, please tell me he's not going to rise into the air and explode in a puff of gold. No, I won't be able to take it. No, no. And I was just watching in disbelief. It's just one of those moments in the movie where I just wanted to stand up and go, no! How could you get it any more wrong? That's so stupid and cheesy and ridiculous. And how boring and uninspired and unoriginal and silly and cheesy. And the visual effects don't even look good. I think they spent all their money on the sea serpent battle and used whatever they had left over for the undragoning. Should be the other way around. The sea serpent is not that important of a scene. The undragoning is everything. I mean, the idea of putting the undragoning more towards the end of the film was an idea I'd kind of suggested before, but the way they did it, mixing it in the middle of a climactic battle, was wrong. It was the wrong way to do it. And then this whole thing was have it just rise into the air and explode, Beauty and the Beast style, was just about the cheesiest thing they could have come up with, I think. Then, just when I think it can't get any cheesier, just as I'm getting overwhelmed with cheesiness and silliness, Eustace gets teleported to Romandu's island, that's kind of dumb, and starts sword fighting the smoke. I mean, finally they actually start using the swords as weapons, imagine that, actually using the swords to swing at something for once, and he does it with smoke. There's actually a fight scene with smoke in this movie. There's a whole lot to say about that. Moving on. So then Eustace puts the swords together, and the whole sword is just one big plot hole. Okay, Aslan gave the lords these 7 swords. Why didn't they just use them on Miraz? I think you got to ask. When did they get the swords? And I thought no one had heard from Aslan for 1,300 years. And when, I don't know. I think the whole thing doesn't really connect. And for some reason, Rindon starts glowing blue. No idea what Rindon has to do with anything. And they give Eustace all the credit for destroying, for putting the swords together and destroying Dark Island. There's no. They don't give Aslan credit at all. Then Eustace magically appears in the water right next to the Dawn Treader. I suppose we're supposed to believe Aslan just dropped him there. I guess. I don't know. I thought that was a little too convenient. And then I'm gonna say it again. It's all telling, no showing. Eustace, I'm a boy again! I'm a boy again! Gosh, not only is he treating the audience like they're stupid, he's treating Caspian and Edmund and Lucy like they're stupid. Caspian, despite even with all the boneheaded decisions he's made on this voyage, can probably tell you're a boy again. You have to shout it at us like, I'm a real boy! I'm a boy again! One of my pet peeves. I thought that was really, really cheesy. Then Reepicheep jumps in the water and starts going, oh, sweet! The water's sweet! He was playing around. Cut to the next scene. If you have not read the book, even if you remember earlier in the movie during that epic shot of the Dawn Treader, when they in the background you heard that, well, the waves go sweet, Oh yeah, it's kind of like sweet water. Now, even in the unlikely event that you make that, because neither moment is emphasized, just kind of thrown in there. Even in the unlikely event that you make that connection, it's not very powerful. It doesn't really mean much. In the book, it's a few pages of the water's sweet. It goes right back to that verse that was set up at the beginning of the story. It bookends their voyage almost. The realization that, oh my gosh, they weren't kidding around. The water is seriously sweet. We must be getting near the world's end now. I think Lucy or Reepicheep or someone says there's that. They've been building up the anticipation for the world's end, and now the excitement. We're here. This is it. They have not been building up that anticipation at all in the movie. So even if they had emphasized this, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal, but they don't. This is the whole Sweetwater discovery. It's just another Easter egg that if you're really looking for it and you're a fan of the book, you'll see it. Otherwise, I don't think you'll have any memory of it at all. The reason they go to Aslan's country is in the movie is, I think Edmund actually says, "Well, we've come this far, well, I guess you might as well, In the book, they've been setting up the longing, the desire to go to Aslan's country the entire time, you know. And also, I would say the plot has this elegance to it in the book because they've been, basically, Dawn Treader, there's the Seven Lords plot, and then there's the Hope for Aslan's country. Those two things come together at the end because now, in order to wake the three last lords from their sleep, they have to leave Reepicheep at Aslan's country. So those two elements come together. Now, at Reepicheep fulfilling his desire will enable them to complete their quest for the Seven Lords. The two things come together. There's this elegance to it. In the movie, it's destroying the mist that wakes the lords, not Reepicheep going at Aslan's country. So the plot is Aslan's going to the world's end at the end. He can almost cut it out, and it wouldn't really mean that much, So the plot is not nearly as well thought out in the movie. And again, Aslan's country, they don't go because, wow, that would be amazing. Let's go to Aslan's country. It's kind of like, well, guess you might as well take a little pit stop at Aslan's country, over here. The power of it's totally, totally gone. And then even people who like the movie have talked about how they cut from, there's Aslan's country, they're in the boat. Even people who like the movie have said we're going way too fast here, to cut straight to them in the boat. They've completely cut out the scene. It's just like, all these characters, we're saying goodbye to all these characters on the Dawn Treader, and just boom, they're gone. And like, how am I supposed to get emotionally involved in this movie when it seems like the filmmakers don't even seem to care about it? They didn't even give any of Drenian and the crew. They didn't give them any kind of goodbye. It's just like, see you later. They didn't even say see you later. Cut, they're gone. So then we cut to them in the boat, and there's all the dialogue where Eustace says, it was painful when Aslan changed me back. The reason they have this dialogue is because it doesn't come through in the undragoning scene itself. I think the filmmakers must have realized that Eustace being in pain and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't do it myself, that those ideas clearly were not in the scene, so they had to have Eustace tell you, You would never get that just by watching the scene, so Eustace has to whisper in your ear, hey audience, just so you know, it was painful for me, and I couldn't do it myself. Just cheesy, clumsy storytelling. And then you have a bit that I reacted, this is a clip I saw before seeing the movie, had a very positive reaction to, because they're saying, Aslan's country, what's it going to be like? Can't even imagine it really, and that's nice. Unfortunately, after seeing the movie, I realized, okay, this is like one of the only moments in the film where they're actually giving us some sense of anticipation and awe and mystery about Aslan's country, and it happens literally seconds before they get to Aslan's country, so there's not much power to it. Wonder what it's going to be like in the next scene they're there, or not Aslan's country exactly, but they're pretty much there. So the power of that was gone. So yeah, this is not my favorite section of the film. To see the undragoning treated the way it was, like it just a footnote in the sea serpent battle, and then to be so cheesy, Eustace sword fighting smoke, then being dropped in the water, Eustace getting all the credit for destroying the mist, and then having to have that dialogue scene, to explain all the things that should have just come through in the scene itself. At this point, I was just kind of overwhelmed by so many scenes being butchered, and so many just cheesy, awful scenes being crammed into such a tight space in the movie. So, next, of course, though, I'll be talking about the scene that every fan's really waiting to see the most, is one of the biggest tear-jerking scenes in the whole series, when they say goodbye, and I'll talk about how that went in the next video. Just a couple more videos to go. I'll be done with the commentary.